All right, so today we're diving into a story from 2 Kings chapter 5.
Okay.
And, it's a really well-known story in the Bible,
Yeah.
but I think there's always something new to be gleaned from it.
Right.
So for anyone who may not be familiar,
Yeah.
it centers around this guy Naaman, who's the commander of the Syrian army.
Oh, wow. A powerful figure.
He is. And the text even says that, the Lord had given victory to the Syrians through him.
So he is successful even in the eyes of the Israelites.
Right. But there's this contrast because despite all the success,
Hmm.
he's got leprosy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So you can imagine what that's like for him.
I mean, a public figure with a very visible illness.
Yeah, talk about a blow to your pride.
It really makes you think about how, no matter who you are, we all face challenges.
Absolutely. So anyway, Naaman has this young Israelite servant girl
Okay.
who had been captured, during one of the Syrian raids.
Right. Spoils of war, sadly.
Yeah, it's a grim reality of that time.
Mm.
But this young girl tells Naaman's wife that there's a prophet in Samaria who can heal him.
Wow, that's a bold statement.
It is. It's like she's holding on to this tiny ember of hope.
And in the midst of her captivity, no less.
Right. So Naaman's wife tells him, and he's like, okay, worth a shot.
So what happens next?
Well, he goes straight to the king, and the king basically writes this letter to the king of Israel,
Okay.
saying, hey, here's my top general. He's got leprosy. Fix him,
Wow, just like that?
pretty much. And he sends Naaman with, like, a ton of silver and gold
No kidding.
and changes of clothing, the whole deal.
Talk about pressure.
I know. So the king of Israel reads this letter and freaks out.
Understandably so.
He's like, does this guy think I'm God? I can't heal leprosy?
He's seeing it as a political move, right?
Totally. He thinks it's some kind of setup to start a war.
Like he's being tested or challenged.
Exactly.
So what happens to Naaman? Is he just sent back?
Well, thankfully, Elisha the prophet hears about all this.
Yeah.
And he basically sends word to the king, like, hey, chill out, send the guy to me.
So Elisha's willing to step in?
Totally. He's not afraid of this challenge at all.
That's faith right there.
It is. So Naaman shows up at Elisha's house
Right.
with his whole entourage.
Yeah.
Horses, chariots, soldiers.
Yeah, he's not exactly blending in.
No, he's making a statement.
You can just imagine the scene.
Right. I mean, this is the commander of the Syrian army
Exactly.
arriving at the prophet's doorstep.
I wonder what Elisha's house looked like, by the way.
I know. Probably not quite the palace Naaman's used to.
Probably not. So Elisha comes out to meet him, right?
Well, not exactly. He sends a messenger out.
A messenger. Really?
Yep. And the messenger tells Naaman, go wash in the Jordan River 7 times and you'll be healed.
That's it.
That's it.
So Naaman's probably thrilled, right?
Not even close. He is fuming.
Really? Why?
Well, he expected Elisha to come out, maybe call in the name of God, do some kind of dramatic ritual. He says, aren't the rivers of Damascus better than this muddy Jordan?
He's offended by the simplicity of it.
He is. He's like, if I wanted to wash in a river, I would have stayed home.
His pride is getting in the way.
Big time. He's missing the point completely.
So, is that the end of the story? Does he just walk away?
Thankfully, no. His servants talk some sense into him.
Okay, how do they do that?
They say, look, if the prophet had asked you to do something difficult, you would have done it right.
That's a good point.
Right, and they continue. So why not try something so easy when all he's asking is for you to wash and be clean?
It's hard to argue with that logic.
I know. They're basically like, what have you got to lose?
So simple, yet profound.
And thankfully, Naaman listens to them.
He does.
He does. He goes down to the Jordan, dips himself 7 times, and boom, his skin is completely healed like a young child's.
Wow.
It's an instant miracle. So a humbled and healed Naaman returns to Elisha,
Okay.
and he stands there in front of everyone and says, now I know that there is no God in all the earth except in Israel.
That's a huge statement.
It is. This is the commander of the Syrian army proclaiming the God of Israel.
What a transformation.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And he wants to give Elisha a gift to show his gratitude.
It's a natural response, I think.
It is. But Elisha flat out refuses.
Wow, really?
Yeah, he's adamant that the healing was God's work, not his own.
He's not seeking any personal gain from this.
Exactly. So Naaman then asks if he can take 2 mules' load of soil back to Syria with him,
Soil? Why soil?
so he can worship the Lord on Israelite ground.
Oh, interesting.
It's like he wants to take a piece of that holy ground back with him.
A tangible connection to the place of his healing.
Exactly.
And does Elisha allow it?
Well, he doesn't really say yes or no. Naaman also brings up this dilemma.
Okay.
You see, he knows he's still going to have to bow in the house of Rimmon with his king.
Ah, the complexities of faith in a non-believing culture.
Right. And he asks Elisha for pardon in advance for doing so.
What does Elisha say to that?
He just says, go in peace.
Wow, that's kind of open-ended.
It is. It's like he's acknowledging the tough spot Naaman's in.
Yeah, trying to reconcile his new faith with his existing duties.
Exactly. But then the story takes this unexpected turn.
What happens?
Elisha's servant, Gehazi,
Oh, I've heard of him.
he sees all this going down, and he's thinking about all that silver and gold Naaman offered.
He's got dollar signs in his eyes.
Totally. And he can't believe Elisha just refused it all.
So what does he do?
He decides to chase after Naaman.
No way.
Yep. He runs after him and makes up this story about how Elisha needs some of the silver and clothes for visiting prophets.
Oh, he's lying.
Yep. And Naaman, being generous, gives him even more than he asked for.
Wow, talk about taking advantage of someone.
I know. So Gehazi takes it all, hides it, and goes back to Elisha.
What does he say when Elisha asks him where he's been?
He lies. Says he hasn't been anywhere.
Oh, man.
And Elisha's like, dude, I know what you did. You've let greed take over.
That's got to be a rough moment.
It is. And as a result, Elisha says that Naaman's leprosy will now afflict Gehazi and his descendants.
That's a severe consequence.
It really is. And Gehazi leaves Elisha's presence, a leper.
That's a powerful image.
It is. A stark contrast to Naaman, who walked away healed.
Yeah. So what can we learn from this ancient story today?
Well, I think it's got a lot to say about humility and obedience.
Yeah. Naaman almost missed out on his healing because he was too proud.
Exactly. He had this idea of how the healing should happen.
It had to be grand and impressive.
Right. And when it wasn't, he got offended.
It's a good reminder that God often works in ways we don't expect.
Totally. It's like those times when we overthink a situation or a problem.
When the answer is actually pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Maybe the solution isn't some big, complicated thing.
But a simple act of obedience or trust.
I like that. And, another thing that strikes me is the fact that Naaman was a Syrian.
Yeah.
God's healing power wasn't limited to the Israelites.
Exactly. God's grace extends beyond borders and cultures.
It really challenges any biases we might have about who deserves God's favor.
It's a powerful message of inclusivity.
And, speaking of unexpected sources of grace, think about that young servant girl.
Right. She had the courage to speak up even in her situation.
And her simple faith set everything in motion.
It's a reminder that anyone can be an instrument of God's work.
Even in seemingly small ways.
And then there's the contrast between Naaman and Gehazi.
Oh, yeah.
One shows humility and found healing and faith.
And the other let greed destroy him.
It's a powerful lesson about priorities.
Are we chasing after worldly possessions or spiritual growth?
And about the consequences of our choices, for sure.
It's sobering, but important.
Absolutely. So ultimately, I think this story encourages us to examine our own hearts.
Where's our pride getting in the way?
Are we open to simple solutions and unexpected guidance?
Are we letting greed dictate our actions?
And are we willing to trust in God's power, even when it seems ordinary?
I think Naaman's story shows that even the most powerful and skeptical people can find healing and faith.
And that even the smallest acts of faith can have a huge impact.
So as you go about your day today, think about what simple waters you might be overlooking.
Those opportunities for growth and transformation that might seem too simple or too ordinary.
The ones that could lead you to a deeper, more authentic faith.
And a closer relationship with God.
Thanks for diving deep with us.